My name is Nathan, I'm 19, and I've always been the quiet one in my family. Not the black sheep, necessarily, just overlooked. Forgotten, sometimes. My younger brother, Luke, is 17. Charming, loud, athletic, the kind of kid who lights up a room and knows it. My parents have always adored him. I used to think it was just a phase, or maybe I was imagining things. But what happened on my 19th birthday? That was the day I stopped making excuses for them. That was the day I realized exactly where I stood in my own family. It started that morning. I had just finished a night shift at the local gas station, a job I picked up after school to help save for college. I was exhausted but excited. Not for gifts, really, just acknowledgement. A happy birthday from someone other than the notification on my phone. I came home and found the living room decorated with balloons, a banner that read, "Congratulations, Luke," and a set of car keys on the counter. My mom was setting up a homemade cake, beaming with pride. My dad stood beside her, snapping pictures of the new car parked in the driveway, a silver Honda Civic, brand new. I stood there in the doorway, sweaty from work and still in my uniform. No one looked up. I cleared my throat. My mom finally glanced my way and said, "Oh, Nathan, you're back. Could you take the trash out? The bags are piling up and guests will be here soon." I blinked. Guests? For Luke's celebration, honey, she said, as if it was obvious. He passed his driving test yesterday and got into varsity football. We're throwing him a little something. That's when it hit me. It was my birthday, but the party was for Luke. No mention of me. No cake with my name. No card. I walked into the kitchen, hoping maybe something was tucked away. A note. A cupcake. Anything. There was nothing. "Hey," I said softly. "Did anyone remember?" Mom turned around, holding a broom. "Your birthday? Of course, we didn't forget. You're 19 now, an adult. We figured you'd appreciate something practical." She handed me a large box wrapped in paper that looked like it had been reused. I opened it and found a mop. A literal mop. And a plastic bucket. "For your apartment someday," she added with a bright smile. "It's time you learned responsibility." I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My throat burned. I looked at Luke, who was showing off the car's Bluetooth speaker to our cousins, revving the engine in the driveway. He didn't even glance at me. I stood in that kitchen, holding the mop like it was an insult made solid. My dad walked in, saw me just standing there, and frowned. "Don't look so sour, Nathan. You've always been the serious one. Luke's got a lot of growing up to do. He needs support and celebration right now. You're already grown." I don't remember walking upstairs, but I must have. I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the one small duffel bag I kept packed for overnight shifts. And something inside me cracked, not in a loud, dramatic way. It was quiet. Final. Like a door closing and locking behind me. I packed my bag with a few extra clothes, my laptop, and some cash I'd stashed away. No note. No announcement. I walked downstairs with my head high and heart heavy. I passed through the living room, past the chatter and music and laughter, and no one noticed me. Not even when I opened the front door and stepped out into the afternoon sun. I stayed with my coworker, Evan, for a couple nights. He didn't ask questions, just offered me the spare room in his apartment and handed me a clean towel. I worked double shifts at the station, barely speaking unless necessary. My phone lit up with the occasional group chat ping from my family, all jokes and updates about Luke's big week. I didn't reply. 3 days later, I got a call from my mom. I let it ring. Then came another. Then 5 in a row from my dad. I finally checked my voicemail out of habit. The first one was my mom's voice, tight, controlled, but with an edge of panic. "Nathan, please call us. We didn't realize you were upset. Come home, okay?" The second was Dad. "Son, this is getting childish. Come home and we can talk." The third was different. It was just Mom, crying. "Nathan, please, we didn't mean to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Just, please come home. We miss you." I stared at the wall for a long time. My phone buzzed again. A text from Luke this time. "Bro, they're freaking out. What did you do?" I didn't reply. I turned the phone off. That night, Evan knocked on my door with a paper bag full of takeout and a six-pack of soda. We sat on the floor of his tiny living room and watched reruns in silence. Eventually, I asked him, "Do you ever feel like your family only loves the version of you that's useful to them?" He didn't answer at first. Then he said, "All the time." It was the first time I felt truly seen. The next morning, I woke up to a banging on the door. Not a knock. A pounding. Evan was still asleep, but I looked through the peephole and saw both of my parents standing there, wild-eyed and desperate. I froze, and that's where things truly began to unravel. I didn't open the door right away. I just stood there behind it, barefoot on the wood floor, heart thudding in my chest like a drum. My mother was holding something, a casserole dish, maybe, or some kind of peace offering wrapped in foil. My dad was pacing like he didn't know what to do with his hands. He kept glancing down the hallway like someone else might pop out to fix this for him. Nathan, my mom called out again, her voice cracking. Please, honey, just talk to us. I turned away from the door and walked back into the small kitchen, flicking on the kettle more out of habit than anything. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want a dramatic confrontation. I wanted them to sit in that hallway and feel what I'd felt for years, like they didn't matter, like they were background noise in someone else's celebration. But I'm not built to be cruel. After a few more minutes, I opened the door just a little. The chain was still on. I kept my face neutral. 3 days, I said quietly. 3 days, and not one of you noticed I left. But now you show up? What? My mom's eyes instantly welled up again. Because we didn't know, Nathan. We thought you were staying with a friend. You've always been so independent. We didn't realize you were hurting. That word, hurting. Like I'd scraped my knee, not been dismissed, sidelined, and forgotten on what was supposed to be my day. Dad stepped forward. Son, look, maybe we handled things wrong. We wanted to celebrate Luke because it was a big week for him, but we didn't mean to make you feel unimportant. Didn't mean to? I repeated, biting back a bitter laugh. You gave him a car and threw a party. I got a mop and a lecture about responsibility. Do you even hear yourselves? They looked at each other, visibly shaken now. Mom pressed her lips together. We just thought you wouldn't care. You've never wanted attention the way Luke does. You're so quiet. I'm quiet because when I speak, no one listens. I snapped, louder than I intended. Evan stirred in his room. I took a breath and lowered my voice again. Do you have any idea what it's like to feel invisible in your own home? To carry the weight, to work long hours, to never cause drama, and still be treated like a footnote. Mom reached toward the door. We can fix this, Nathan. Please, come home. We miss you. Do you miss me, or do you miss the things I did for you? I asked flatly. Neither of them answered. I closed the door without another word. I didn't slam it. I wasn't trying to be theatrical. I just needed space. I locked it, leaned against the frame, and slid down to the floor. My chest felt tight, but not from sadness. It was something else, something sharper. Evan walked out a minute later, rubbing his eyes. You good? I nodded. Yeah, just needed to get that out. He handed me a mug of tea and sat beside me. They'll be back. I know, I murmured. But this time, they'll be facing a different version of me. Later that day, I checked my bank app. The joint grocery account, the one I'd funded for years because your brother doesn't have a job yet, had multiple transactions even after I left. Gas, Amazon, even a streaming service upgrade. I smiled coldly and closed it down. I canceled my auto deposit too. Then came the group chat messages. Dad, Nathan, your mother's upset. Please talk to her. Luke, bro, this is going too far. They're freaking out. Mom, we love you. Come home. Let's start fresh. I didn't answer. Instead, I went quiet. And the silence? It started to say everything they never listened to. That night, Evan and I cooked dinner. Nothing fancy, just frozen pizza and some canned soup, but it felt more like home than my childhood house ever had. We talked about books, about dumb high school stories, about what it would take to apply to a real college next semester. I realized I hadn't had a real conversation like that in months. Maybe longer. Just before bed, my phone buzzed again. A long message from my mom this time. She had gone back through old photos and said she missed the little boy who used to help her bake. She wanted to know if there was a way to rebuild things. Then she sent a second message, a picture of my room, or what used to be my room. It was stripped now, clean sheets, desk cleared off, as if they were preparing for me to come home. But something about it didn't feel right. It looked like a room for a guest, not a son. Like they were fixing the surface, not the roots. I stared at it for a long time. And that's when I made a decision, one that would change the balance of everything in our family. But before I could act on it, something happened that neither I, nor my parents, were prepared for. The next morning, I woke up to another string of messages. But this time, they weren't from my parents. They were from extended family, my Aunt Jasmine, my cousin Dylan, even my grandmother. All confused. Some concerned. One from Aunt Jasmine read, "Sweetheart, I just heard what happened. Are you all right? Your mom mentioned you're going through something and that she's worried sick." Another from Dylan. "Bro, what's this about you running away? Grandma said your parents are beside themselves." That's when it clicked. They were trying to control the narrative. I didn't run away. I left. Quietly, calmly, without drama. But that didn't fit their version of events. So now, instead of owning what they'd done, ignoring my birthday, treating me like a background character in my own life, they were telling people I'd overreacted, had some kind of emotional meltdown. They painted me as unstable, ungrateful, dramatic. I sat up, scrolling through the messages with a growing knot in my stomach. I didn't mind being misunderstood. I'd lived with that for years. But this was manipulation. This was them trying to save face at my expense. And worse, they were turning my story into theirs. That afternoon, I went down to the local cafe and ordered a coffee, then opened my laptop. I hadn't posted on social media in months. I rarely ever did. But I decided this time I would. I posted a photo. Just one. It was the mop and bucket, still wrapped in the birthday paper, sitting in the corner of the room where I'd left them the night I packed. The caption? Simple. Responsibility. What you give your oldest when he asks for love. Within the hour, the likes started pouring in. Friends from school, old coworkers, even people I barely knew commented with things like, "This hits hard," and "Been there." Some messaged me directly, asking if I was okay. But the real moment came when my cousin Julia, someone I hadn't spoken to much in years, tagged me in a reply to my post. "Wait, that was your birthday gift? Luke got a car." They posted about it last week like it was some big family milestone. So they had posted about it. On Facebook, Instagram, probably even the family WhatsApp group I'd muted years ago. All smiling photos and proud captions like "so proud of our Luke," and "a big moment for our youngest." Meanwhile, my name hadn't even come up. That's when the dam broke. People started talking. Quietly at first, messages here and there. But soon, there were whispers my mom couldn't control. People started asking her why she'd forgotten her eldest son's birthday. Why she'd told people I was going through something, when really, she was the one who'd failed to show up. 3 days later, I got a knock on the apartment door again. It wasn't my parents this time. It was my grandmother. I didn't open the door right away. I wasn't sure what to expect. But then she said, through the door, "Nathan, it's Nana. I just want to talk." So I opened it. She stood there with a tin of those butter cookies she always gave us around Christmas, looking smaller than I remembered, but no less sharp. Her eyes searched mine. "May I come in?" I nodded and stepped aside. We sat in the tiny kitchen, the same one where I'd eaten ramen and shared late-night stories with Evan. Nana took a breath and said, "Your mother called me crying yesterday. Said you've been distant, angry, ungrateful." I stayed quiet. "But I know you, Nathan," she continued. "And I know what it looks like when someone paints over guilt with tears." That got my attention. I asked her what she got you for your birthday. She wouldn't answer, Nana said flatly. So I called Luke. He was proud to tell me about the car. I asked him what you got, and he laughed. Laughed. My stomach turned. "She didn't lie to me outright," Nana said, her voice steady. "But she omitted. She twisted. And that's not love. That's shame." I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. "Why are you here, Nana?" "Because I want to help you do this right," she said simply. "You're standing at the edge of something important. Don't waste it being angry. Be intentional. Make them see." I didn't say anything for a long time. Just stared at the tin of cookies between us. Then, finally, I asked, "Would you be mad if I took a break from the family? Like a real break?" Nana smiled gently. "I'd only be mad if you let them drag you back without learning anything." I didn't realize how much I needed her words until that moment. That night, I drafted a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter, printed, signed, folded neatly into envelopes. One for each, my mom, my dad, and Luke. In it, I laid out everything. The years of being overlooked. The expectations piled onto me without recognition. The way they dismissed my needs but celebrated his triumphs. I didn't lash out. I didn't curse. I just told the truth. Quietly. Clearly. Then I mailed them. A week passed. No response. Then one day, I got a notification, a transaction attempt on the shared family grocery account. Declined. I'd already closed it. But someone had tried to use it again. I checked my email. Nothing. My phone. Silent. Until later that evening, when I got a single message from my dad. It said, "You went too far." That was the moment I realized they weren't sorry. Not truly. Not for what they'd done. Only for the consequences that followed. And I hadn't even gotten to the real consequence yet. Because what they didn't know was that I wasn't just taking a break. I was about to make a decision that would change everything. One they couldn't undo, no matter how many tears they cried or stories they twisted. But first, I had one more thing to prepare. I didn't reply to my dad's message. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because the silence said more. "You went too far." That line played on repeat in my head for the rest of the night, like a scratched record refusing to move forward. Too far for what? For standing up for myself? For stepping out of a role I never asked for? The fixer, the forgotten, the fallback? It was always like that with them. If Luke messed up, it was brushed off with a shrug. Boys will be boys. If I missed one chore, one deadline, one call, I got a lecture about discipline and gratitude. And now that I had finally drawn a line in the sand, they were offended that I dared move it at all. But I was done letting them write the story. For the first time in years, I stopped asking what they needed from me and started asking what I needed for myself. Step one was closing every financial tie I had to them. That grocery account was just the start. I remembered Mom had convinced me 2 years ago to help with a family emergency by co-signing a secondary line on her internet and utility account. It was meant to be temporary, but I was still on it. So I called the provider, verified my identity, and officially removed my name. Then came the health insurance plan, the one I'd stayed on to help Mom save money, even though I could have gone through work. Canceled. I also requested a new bank account and transferred all funds from the one they still had routing info for. I wasn't leaving a single door open for them to guilt trip, manipulate, or reach me through excuses about bills. I didn't know them that anymore. 2 weeks passed. Evan noticed I was sleeping better. Nana visited again. She brought banana bread and sat with me while we quietly organized college applications. She never asked if I was going home. She never even brought them up. But my parents? They stayed silent. Until I got a call from Luke. I nearly didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Hey," he said, sounding weirdly upbeat. "So, I guess I owe you an apology." I said nothing. "Look, I didn't know you were this upset," he went on. "I thought you were just being dramatic. You've always been kind of sensitive." I nearly hung up right then, but I let him continue. "Anyway," he said, "Mom and Dad are freaking out. Like, they're talking about therapy and family meetings and stuff. And Dad said you cut all ties." "Is that true?" "It is," I said calmly. A pause. "Oh, well, what about the car stuff?" "What about it?" I asked. "I mean, you co-signed part of the down payment through that joint savings thing. Mom told me." I closed my eyes. I had forgotten about that. Last year, when my parents were talking about trading in their old minivan, they asked if they could temporarily use some of my savings account as a holding balance to qualify for a better loan offer. I agreed, because that's what I always did. Trusted them. But now, that money's already been flagged, I said. I submitted a fraud claim 2 days ago. It was moved without my full consent. The bank is investigating. Luke went silent. Then a scoff. "You're really doing this?" "Over a mop." I almost laughed. Almost. But the sadness hit harder than the humor. "This was never about the mop," I said quietly. "This was about being treated like a stranger in my own family for years." He sighed. "They're gonna lose it when the bank calls." "I'm sure they will," I said. "But they won't be calling me." And then I hung up. That night, the dam broke, not in anger, but in grief. Grief for the family I thought I had. For the birthdays I spent waiting for someone to notice. For the Christmas gifts that were clearly regifted. For the soccer games I cheered Luke through while no one came to mine. I cried like I hadn't let myself cry in years. And Evan just sat next to me on the floor, handing me tissues and not saying a word. But when I woke up the next morning, it was like a fog had lifted. I felt clear. Lighter. I decided to visit my childhood home one last time. Not to talk, just to see it. To remind myself of why I left. I took the bus. I had returned my parents' car keys 2 weeks prior. When I walked down our old street, I saw the same oak tree I used to climb with Luke, the cracked driveway we used to draw chalk on, the mailbox still duct taped from that time Luke ran over it with his scooter and blamed the wind. And then I saw them, my parents, out front, loading a box into the car. Mom saw me first. Her eyes lit up like I was a prodigal son. "Nathan," she called, rushing toward me. "Oh, thank God." I held up a hand. "I'm not here to talk." I said evenly. Just needed to see the place. My dad came around the corner, arms crossed. You've made your point, he said stiffly. Are you happy now? Not happy, I replied. But I'm finally at peace. My mom's face crumpled. Please, Nathan. We didn't mean to hurt you. We didn't realize. That's the problem, I said. You never realized. You never asked. You just assumed I'd always be there. I glanced at the house, the porch swing where I'd sat alone after my high school graduation when they left early to beat traffic. The front step where they took Luke's prom pictures and forgot to include me. So many memories, but none of them warm. I'm leaving the city in a few weeks, I added, starting college across the state. I've already signed the lease. Nana helped. Dad flinched at that. And no, I continued, you're not invited to move me in. This chapter? It's mine. They didn't say a word. I turned to go but paused. One last thing, I said, pulling an envelope from my coat pocket. Inside is a breakdown of every financial contribution I made over the last 5 years. Rent, groceries, internet, even the car deposit. I'm not asking for repayment, just acknowledgement. Read it. Sit with it. Then maybe you'll understand why I left. I handed it to my mom, who took it with trembling hands. And then I walked away. 3 months later, I moved into a small college apartment with Evan as my roommate. Nana sent a housewarming plant and a handwritten note that simply said, "May your home always feel like yours." I pinned it above my desk. I blocked my parents' numbers, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. If they wanted to rebuild someday, it would take more than tears. It would take truth. It would take work. But I wasn't holding my breath. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval, their money, or their affection to feel whole. I had built something of my own. From the ashes, from the silence, from the shadows they shoved me into. And when people ask why I left, I tell them this. My brother got a car and a celebration. I got a mop and a lecture. So I gave them exactly what they gave me. Nothing. And from that nothing, I finally became everything I was meant to be.